India battles the second wave of the coronavirus pandemic, there is an important international development taking place. The Israel-Palestine violence has escalated. As the two countries, or rather the two states, are now at the brink of war, in the past 24 hours, we've witnessed Israeli forces fire artillery and launch airstrikes targeting Hamas tunnels, while the latter has continued firing rockets and airstrikes. To decode this entire situation, we have with us Ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar. We also have with us Dr. Wael Abbad, Major General G.J. Dwivedi, and also Arjun Hardas, who's a foreign affairs journalist. We will open this up to our guests now to understand better what exactly is going on in the region. Arjun, let's start with you first. Help us draw us the premise of this discussion. What exactly is happening? What happened at the Al-Aqsa Mosque? And in the aftermath, what exactly is going on in Israel?
Thank you, Gauri. Just to clarify, there are two separate events happening here. Okay, one is there has been a clash with, one is the clash that has happened in Sheikh Jarrah. Rather, not a clash at Sheikh Jarrah, but the East Jerusalem neighborhood of Sheikh Jarrah itself, there was no clash there. There is a dispute of which both sides have their own claims. Basically, the territory, these are some houses. Arabs are living in some houses in the East Jerusalem territory of Sheikh Jarrah, which in 1948 was taken over by Jordanians and then was taken over by the administration of the Israelis in 1967. Now, there were some Jews who were living in Sheikh Jarrah, what became Sheikh Jarrah was 48. Before 1948, there were some Jews living in Jerusalem at that point. They were expelled after the 48 takeover by Jordan. So afterwards, there's been a claim by them that some of these houses are their houses, and the Arabs who are living there should either move or they should pay rent, backdated rent. Now, obviously, the Arabs who are living there, who own the houses personally, who have been living there since 48 rather, are the ones they've objected, and it's gone up to the Supreme Court. This is a legal matter which has gone up. Then there was to support some of these Arabs, there were clashes there were some clashes in Al-Aqsa territory. It's a mosque. I'm not sure if you've ever seen the map. There are two main mosques on what is called Temple Mount. Okay, one is the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is in one corner, which is, if you see the photographs, this is a grey colored mosque. Then there is called the Haram al-Sharif, which is the mosque itself is the noble sanctuary which is the one you see with the golden dome. But the entire territory the entire area, unfortunately, there was some agitation, etc. We're not getting into the reasons, and there were clashes with the Israeli security forces at that point. Now, legally, no Jews are there on Temple Mount. They're not allowed to come there and pray or anything like that. Also, it's supposed to be the holiest site in Judaism. So these clashes have happened. But that is another part two. Third part of it happened 3-4 days ago when Hamas, which is ruling the Gaza territory, Gaza Strip territory. Okay, it is not part of the Palestinian Authority. As a matter of fact, the Palestinian Authority had been there in 2005 when Israel withdrew from the Gaza Strip in 2005 completely and absolutely. 2007, there was a takeover very hostile and violent takeover by Hamas, and they kicked out the Fatah administration. And since then, they've been ruling Gaza. Hamas is sorry, I'll just give you a couple of minutes. Hamas's ideology is very clear. They don't hide it. They have said very clearly the Fatah movement, the Palestinian Authority, has signed an agreement as the PLO, in its form as the PLO, have had a peace treaty in whichever way it is going with Israel, where they both recognize each other. Hamas has signed no such agreement. Hamas's charter specifically and openly calls for the destruction of Israel. They're very open about it. Islamic Jihad and Hamas, which are Gaza. And while there is no connection between what has happened in East Jerusalem with the Hamas decided to start firing rockets in the hundreds, literally, towards populated territories of Israel. They made it very clear. They openly announced it, that we will attack Jerusalem, we will attack Tel Aviv. Their first event was when they announced at 9 o'clock there will be an event. And 9 o'clock on PM, 4 days ago, they started firing hundreds of rockets at populated territories, including Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, etc. Now, People ask that question, why haven't there been so many casualties from the Israeli side if the rockets are so bad? Well, one of the reasons is the protection device they have, the Iron Dome, which has been extremely effective in protecting Israeli civilians. Unfortunately, I mean, it's just one of those things. The choices that the Hamas made was to invest in rockets rather than protection, rather than shelters. So therefore, the numbers have gone up, and nobody likes it. Nobody wants civilians to be killed. That's out of the question. Definitely not even the Israelis. But this is the question. They should stop this act. Stop the rockets. Israel will not hit them.
Well, Arjun, appreciate you breaking this down so nicely for us. Dr. Awad, what then does this mean for the politics of Middle East, the geopolitics of the region?
Well, I think this is not happening right now. It has been ongoing for a long years. It has happened when the division of Palestine took place in 1948, when the UN Security Council resolution divided Palestine into two states, give the minority Jewish 55% of actual Palestine, and they give 45% to the Palestinian. That plan was rejected even by the Palestinian and the Israeli that time because the plan was not just a part of Israel. It is the whole of the Middle East, the West Asian region, from Euphrates to Nile. So then the continuity with the war since then, 1948, 1956, then we had 1967, 1971, 73. And all this, over the years, there had been annihilation of total of Palestine. So when Arafat came in 1993, he signed an agreement, Oslo agreement with Israel. He surrendered 80% of Palestine to the Israelis, that hoping that the 20% he may get at least that he can get Palestine on that small map of what remaining of actual Palestine. But over the years, even when the right-wing Netanyahu and his party came over, Ariel Sharon, we saw that there is a change even in the Israeli society from a 55% wanted to have peace with the Arabs to less than 10% who does not want even peace with the Arabs. So the fight continuously is not because Hamas is fighting Israel. It is because of Israel occupation of Palestine, because of the settlement in Palestinian occupied territories as per the UN Security Council. It is because of the force they have implemented on the Palestinian to expel them from their own territories. And if you show the map of any normal human being of the actual Israel and actual Palestine prior to 1947, you will know that what is going on right now, there is nothing remain of less than 5% of the actual Palestine for the Palestinian. So what is happening now, it just started in the Sheikh Jarrah, because that province of East Jerusalem was where the Palestinian, 1948 Palestinian who decided to live within that territory, to live with the Israeli identity, 1.6 million people living under the Israeli identity who accepted Israel as the new state. So these people now, they wanted to expel them from their territories. They have tried all the law, the draconian law of the colonial power Israel, that they have tried to implement it on them. They failed. But when they failed, they tried to take it by all means. Even they were offered hundreds of millions of dollars to sell their properties. They refused to sell. They said, we are going to stay. So when this started as a crisis within the Palestinian territories, and Israel attacked the prayers inside the mosque of Al-Aqsa, it was not Hamas. It was not anybody else. It was the Israeli Defense Forces attacking prayers inside a holy place, and especially in the months of Ramadan. So you ask anyone, when look at the pictures, he will tell you that who is the aggressors and who are the victims. Here we see suddenly the rockets launching from Hamas and all, which is helping Netanyahu, nothing else. It was not helping the Palestinians. And the flaring up of this region is nothing to do with the current crisis, but to end the Palestinian crisis. Ending the Palestinian crisis without even giving the Palestinians any third of land inside Palestine. That's why they wanted to end any resistance to Israeli occupation, and ending of Hamas or ending of the resistance forces within Gaza is part of the whole process, what started as Abraham Accord. So I'll come back to you on the discussion. We will highlight more of this.
We'll discuss the Accords in a bit, but before that, Major General Dwivedi, it's not just about Israel and Palestine anymore. It's the countries which are also involved in the entire process. So talk to us a bit about the involvement of other countries like Iran, Turkey, Jordan, Egypt. Help us understand what roles do these individual countries play.
Very good, Gauri. I think you have put up a very good perspective. this issue of Israel-Palestine started as a territorial dispute, but after 1948, when Israel was established, it became an Arab-Israeli dispute. That means all the Arab countries got together against Israel, and that is 11 countries got together. There are 4 wars, as was brought out by Professor Awad, 1948, 56, 67, 73. Thereafter, there was Camp David agreement between Egypt and Israel. So they had a treaty. So they, came beyond the dispute. And later on, there was the Oslo Accord between the Palestine and Israel, and also between the Jordan and Israel in 1994. So what has happened is, from Arab-Israel dispute, now back it is Palestinian-Israel dispute. But yet, Arabs are stakeholder, like Saudi Arabia is very, strongly protagonist that Eastern Jerusalem must be the capital of Palestine, and they back up the two-nation solution. And of course, the other countries, like of course UAE just now has signed Abraham Accord, so they by and large are again out of this larger Arab dispute. But to suffice to say that currently it is less of Arab-Israel dispute, more of Palestinian-Israel dispute. And in this, I like to flag 3 issues. Firstly, Palestine has 2 wings. One is Fatah, and second is Hamas, which is more militant, as was brought out by one of the panelists. Now, they have resorted to more violence, and they are not party to the Oslo Accord. And currently, dispute is more about the Eastern Jerusalem. Now, Eastern Jerusalem has more Palestinian population than the Jews. About 60% Palestinian, 40% Jews. And Israel want to assimilate East and Western Jerusalem as one city, which cannot happen because there are 3 worship places which are very important to all the 3 religions. Like for the West Wall for the Jews, then the mosque for the Muslims, and of course the church for the Christians. Now currently what dispute started was when Israelis evicted 6 families which are Palestinian families from the Eastern Jerusalem. And this was taken as they are trying to Judaize the Eastern Jerusalem.
Have they been evicted yet though? So have they been evicted yet?
They were evicted. 6 of the families were evicted. And that's where the whole issue started now. And that is the origin of current dispute, which have been strongly, contested by Hamas. And that's where this whole dispute started. And Hamas has always used the rockets as one of the ways to intimidate Israel. And Israel has a very good defense, which they are now hitting back. And Israel has a policy of very strong response. And that is where the dispute now stands. Basically, is in the Eastern Jerusalem and the Israeli effort to Judaize Eastern Jerusalem.
Right. Ambassador Sajjanha, then, what is the option in front of India? Not to say that India is directly involved, but Israel arguably is one of India's greatest friends in the world at the moment. But also in the past, we've precariously balanced this with Palestine. So should this come to India, what are the options in front of us?
Yeah, before I come to that question, let me also add just 1 or 2 aspects of, the discussion that we are having.
Sure.
Number 1, it is mentioned that it is not an issue of, the Palestinians coming against the Israelis, but definitely this is a matter that is of great interest to Hamas because, when it has a conflict between Hamas and the Palestinian Authority or the Al-Fatah, then of course they want to project themselves amongst the Palestinians as the more muscular, the more aggressive in terms of defending the rights and promoting the rights of the Palestinians. Second is, of course, whatever is happening is in a manner of speaking also in the interest of Benjamin Netanyahu. We know that, there has been instability. There have been 5 elections that have been organized in Israel. He has not been able to form the government. Now the ball is in the court of the opposition, etc., etc. So if there is this moment of crisis and he's able to acquit himself creditably and also again demonstrate that he is out there to promote to safeguard the sovereignty, integrity and security of Israel, then of course he does get that much of support. The last point in this is, what is something very new, very different, which has not happened. Because, everyone is saying that this is what happened in 2014, the sort of confrontation between Israel and Hamas that is taking place now. After 2014, it has not taken place. So this is something being equated, something close to that. But what additional has happened this time is that there is a sort of a civil war scenario that has erupted within Israel itself. And that has never happened earlier, because there are Israeli Arabs and Israeli Jews. Of course, Israeli Jews are about 80%, Israeli Arabs are about 20%. But this sort of a civil war, this sort of a communal conflict within Israel, in all the big cities, whether it is Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, Lod, you name it, everywhere this is happening. And I think this is a new element that has come in. And what Benjamin Netanyahu, when he was addressing the people, he said, this is totally unacceptable, lynching of Arabs by Jews and vice versa. So I think we have to look upon it in that. And maybe the last point there is, everything of what has been mentioned by the other panelists is absolutely right. Sheikh Jarrah, there is that eviction started taking place. Then they had put a limit of about 10,000 Palestinians, Muslims to come to the Al-Aqsa Mosque, to that sanctuary, to the compound. But there were more people who wanted to come, particularly on this holy day. When it is said that the Quran was revealed to Prophet Muhammad in 610 or whatever. So more people wanted to come, and there were, I think, anything in terms of numbers, 75 to 80,000 people who were there. And that is what really caused the clash between the Israeli police and the people who were there. And Hamas sensed an opportunity. They were ready for it. They were waiting for it. Otherwise, it is mentioned that the whole of 2020, maybe they have fired just about 150 rockets. Here they fired 300 rockets in one night. And this sort of, clash is continuing. So obviously they were ready, they were waiting for an opportunity. Now, to come to your question, Gauri, a very important question as to what India should do. India has excellent relations with Israel, as you said. India also has excellent relations with Palestine, with the Palestinian Authority. I think the only difference over the last few years is, the recognition of Israel was in 1992 during the time of Prime Minister Narasimha Rao. And after that, it took us 25 years for the first visit by our Prime Minister to take place to Israel. And what we have done is we have dehyphenated our relations between the Palestinian Authority and Israel, because we did have also the visit by the President going to Ramallah and also the Prime Minister going to Ramallah. But of course, it was not one after the other. We did not want to hyphenate it. So I think there are voices which are coming out that India should use its leverage. India should use its clout with not only with these two countries, not only with the Palestinian authorities and Israel, but because we have excellent relations with all the other interested stakeholders in the region, whether it is Jordan, it is Saudi Arabia, it is UAE. I think this needs to be recognized. It was mentioned by one of the panelists as far as the Abraham Accords are concerned. Abraham Accords, which, as a result of that, I think that very open and outwardly support for the Palestinian cause amongst the Arabs seems to have come down a little bit. Saudi Arabia, it was expected that they will also join, they will also normalize relations with Israel. That has not happened so far. But it is said that, when Pompeo was visiting Saudi Arabia, then maybe Netanyahu and his chief of Mossad had also traveled there and they had a meeting there. But be that as it may, the point today is, I think India can openly coming out and trying to bring in peace between the two sides, that might not be particularly useful. But I think behind the scenes, engaging all the stakeholders, engaging all the parties, I think this is what India should be doing, and I think India would be doing, although
Right.
it is not a policy to come out right in the open.
All right, so the next part of the discussion, let's talk about resolution quickly. Arjun, a very important point which Ambassador Sajjanah pointed out was the domestic instability in Israel right now. What kind of potential impact do you think that can have on the conflict? Can it prolong it or resolve it quickly?
Well, Gauri, the problem is, unfortunately, looking at the history of the region and looking at how these conflicts happen, especially between, let's say, the Hezbollah in the north and Israel and Hamas and Israel, nothing gets resolved. It's just a ceasefire, kind of a thing, a temporary ceasefire. The last action that took place was 2014. There was a war literally between Hamas. What has actually changed? And remember, the difference is that it is a state of Israel is far more powerful than let's say, the Hezbollah or the Hamas by far. But the problem is always there has been that there is no actual resolution which happens. There's always an intermission by, let's say, Egypt or some other interested parties who would like to mediate, and they bring in a temporary ceasefire, and then we're back to square one after a few years. Number one. Number two, what also happens domestically, and quite rightly pointed out earlier with the ambassador as well, is that the 4 weeks opportunity that was given by the president of Israel to Prime Minister Netanyahu, to Bibi Netanyahu, to form a government, didn't happen. Now the opposition leader, Tommy Lapid, Yair Lapid, has been given the same opportunity to form this thing. He's going to finish another 2 weeks or so. He's got. Now the only way that he can form a government, if potentially, is if he takes the assistance and the support of the Joint Arab List, which is basically called RAM, R-A-A-M. Well, not ours, but theirs. Okay, and now with this kind of a situation which is building up, with the hostilities, like literally a civil war in Israel between the Israeli Arabs and the Israeli Jews, not from outside, not the Palestinians, not the Hamas, not others. This is an internal. Citizens of Israel, Jews and Arabs, have got into this kind of a conflict, when this would end up at the end of the day only benefiting Netanyahu. It's not that he will end up forming the government, but he will make sure. But this kind of an action will make sure that even the opposition will not get the support from the Arab partners. So far, in the last 70 years of Israel's existence, they have never formed, not a single government has been formed with any Arab participation as a minister or something like that. Here was possibly a chance, but it's banked upon his reputation, as he calls it, of Mr. Security, which includes, of course, his brother who was killed while leading the rescue operation at Entebbe Airport in 1976. So he's used that as a crutch a lot of times. So now, as Mr. Security, he has to lead until a government is formed. He is technically the caretaker prime minister. So he has to now make sure that he keeps that reputation. And it's a terrible no-win situation for both sides. People are dying, whether it's a less number or more number from either side. People are dying. The only way out of this, as of now, in my opinion, it's only my opinion, is accept whatever mediation is given. Later, make sure that the mediators also include some kind of check system, like the Qatari quite close to the government and Hamas, to find out some close system of monitoring and making sure that the Hamas does not get the kind of equipment to build rockets that they've been doing impudently for the last so many years. And yes, solve the domestic situation. That's more important. Hamas can be taken care of. It's not a problem for Israel if it has to. But this domestic situation, the literal civil war that is leading in between the Israelis, between the Jews and the Arabs of Israel, that will cause far more damage to the state of Israel than Hamas can possibly do.
Dr. Awad, two-part question then. What happens to the Islamic world now? What happens to the Abraham Accords? And more importantly, there are all these mediation efforts by Egypt, by Qatar. Is there a possible solution inside them?
Well, I'll start with your second part of the question, because the mediation for what? Mediation to have another ceasefire? Where is the question here? Is the question is occupation and annihilation of Palestine. I mean, show this map of Palestine to anybody in the world, he will tell you what's happening in the territory. This is the actual Palestine prior to division. This is 1948, division by the UN Security Council. This is the current, that it was 1967 war. Now this is the whole of Palestine, and 5% remaining, that green dot is of Palestinian. I mean, where is seriously are we heading now? Are we heading for a kind of a solution? The problem here, they are trying to kill the Palestinian and expel the remaining 1.6 million of Palestinians who agreed to the Israelis' citizenship. Hamas, remember, Gaza Strip is under siege from the sea, from the sky, from the land, and it is the largest open prison in the world. And you are bombing and you're bringing this building down and you're watching it on TV on the head of the people. That is absolutely a genocide. This is a genocide. This is not a solution. When you are having Hamas is firing, or Al-Jihad al-Islami or Kataib al-Qassam firing on Israel, we know there are killing inside Israel, there is injury. But there are still people in Israel who come out and take souvenir picture with those rockets. But in Palestine, trust me, there is nobody remain to take those souvenir picture because they are under the debris. They don't have even ditches underground to survive. So the case here is a catastrophe happening on the head of the Palestinian. When you have a settlers inside the East Jerusalem saying, "Death to the Arabs," this is written in our old statesman, and we are not allowing Arab, whether Christians, whether Muslim, to stay in Jerusalem. We wanted this as a whole for only Jew. Then we have to understand that this is the plan, what is going on. So therefore, any mediation is not a solution. The only solution is the international community, which have the moral responsibility, like the European, of finding a permanent solution, a comprehensive settlement of the issue, and implementation of UN Security Council resolution. The Muslim world is worried because Israel wanted to build the Solomon Temple. And they say Solomon Temple inside Jerusalem is built under the debris of the Aqsa Mosque. If Aqsa Mosque has to be destroyed, then it becomes a religious problem. That's why Hamas, who have been found by the Israelis themselves to counter PLO, and they have been 75% of their weapon, by the way, were sold by the settlers of Israeli settlers. Because that time they wanted, it is according to Israeli newspaper, it's not my newspaper. They have said it themselves that they have been funding, they have trying to counter Yasser Arafat Liberation Organization, and then that is what the mess created now. So where is the solution? If you are talking today, we are talking of a Nakba of 73 years old, 1948, which is commemorated the 13th of May, and we are talking of a century-old Zionist plan for Palestine to annihilate the whole of Palestine. This is the map which is in the Greater Israel. Look at this map. This is a Greater Israel they're looking at. This is from Euphrates to Nile, which including Syria, include Jordan, include Palestine, include the north of Saudi Arabia. Come on, where are we heading? The problem here is it has to be a solution, end occupation, end settlement, sit down across the table, find a two-state solution. That's no other way out. Otherwise, it's a matter of existence between the two.
All right. Okay, Dr. Awad. Mayor General Dwivedi, would you agree with that, or would you think it's more than that, and it's not just ethnic cleansing, it's also fundamental Islam, it's also terror attacks, it's also external powers getting involved, the issue of Jerusalem, of power politics. What do you think?
Gauri, I think you have named it all. It's a very complex issue. Firstly, it is the issue between Israel and Palestine, and then there are internal issues, the power dynamics of Israel and Netanyahu. More militant they are, more aggressive they are, more support they have within the own nation. And similarly, the battle between Hamas and Fatah, more Hamas is aggressive, more they are able to get the footprint. And then comes the wider community, the Arabs as such. I think Arabs have shortchanged the Palestinians. They pursued their own interest, and when the interest of Palestine came, I think they have been left high and dry. I feel the solution lies in three dimensions. Firstly, within Palestinians, they have to come together instead of fighting each other. They have to have one united front in case they want to put pressure on Israel. And secondly, Israel has to come out of delusion. They have to accept the reality that ultimately two-nation state is the solution. They cannot control the eastern Jerusalem, that has to be given to Palestinians, and that is where the solution lies. And third is the global polity, Arabs and others. I think they have to bring pressure on Israel because Palestine is on the losing end. So I find the solution is in three domains: within Palestinians, within Israelis, and of course the global polity and the Arabs.
All right, gentlemen. Unfortunately, it's a much more complicated issue, and I would like to have more time, but we only have so much time in this broadcast. So thank you very much for joining us and for all those views.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.